Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Harakakadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the rule well, and Shalom to all the brothers doing the work of sincerity and truth, pushing this word to the four corners. Just saw this article here on the Washington Times, and it basically shows how the levels of confusion we have in current times are hitting critical mass. Because they're basically pushing through a law that would define what a man or woman is legally. Which, when you think about it, is like fucking batshit insane. They have to do that shit, but that's the times we're in. Says Kansas rights bill angers left with its definition of woman. Conservative state aims to clarify rules for single-sex area. So it says legislators in red states are determined this year to do what Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson could not, provide a definition of the word woman. And yeah, it's going to go into it. Well, I'll read down a bit more. So it says the Kansas Senate on Thursday became the first chamber to pass the Women's Bill of Rights, a measure that defines woman and man in state law. The distinction is central to the push to preserve single-sex areas such as public restrooms, school sports, prisons, and shelters. And yeah, we had like the chick who's been in charge of Scotland for like the last 8, maybe more years. I think close to 10. Like, she just completely nuked her career because there was she basically was trying to push through a law to let essentially your legal sex be defined how you want it to. So if you just say you're a woman, you can legally get changed to a woman, and then you know when you go to jail, you get put in a woman's prison. And there was the guy in Scotland where he'd like raped 2 women and was in jail. And then they put him in a women's jail afterwards because he said he identified as a woman, which that basically that whole mess just tanked her career. She had to quit. So now it's becoming a hot topic. But this is over in the States where I don't think they've not had anything passed. But there was over here they've had it for a little bit, because in Scotland they said there was like 5 or 6 cases of guys going up, and I think America had it, because I remember there was one guy that got in a women's prison and then ended up getting like 2 or 3 of the other prisoners pregnant. So it's complete confusion. So it says okay, skipping down a bit. So it says, under the bill, a person's biological sex is determined at birth. Females defined as someone whose biological reproductive system is developed to provide ova. And males refers to them whose biological reproductive system is developed to fertilize the ova of a female. Similar measures have been introduced this year in Oklahoma, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Tennessee, and Texas, in South Carolina. Basically in what are they calling it? Republican states. The legislature is considering a joint resolution that would amend the state constitution to define sex as biological sex at birth. Figuring out what woman means became a political hot potato last year after Justice Jackson said at a confirmation hearing that she couldn't provide a definition. A few months later, conservative pundit Matt Walsh released his documentary, What is a Woman?, mocking the whole movement. So yeah, that video going viral basically blew up the whole conversation, and it really just shows how the shit cannot be defined. It's complete confusion. But that's more or less what has come down with most aspects of society. Now it's basically just about peeling apart any form of normalcy and just having everyone basically having no way of getting to a level of understanding anything, and confusion kind of being the base state, because everything on this side is getting ready to be done away with. So it says Miss Erickson called the Senate Bill 180 a common sense approach to the issue, but Kansas Democrats clearly disagree. So yeah, it is like it's so straightforward, like you wouldn't even have to think about it. But the fact it has to be put into law shows how, everything's basically been thrown in the bin. And now it's like, a guy can be walking around in a dress with a full beard, but then you're meant to then just be like, call them ma'am, which is basically letting them define what reality is, man. And for a lot of people, they're going along with it. Or it's even people where if they try and speak up, they'll lose their job, they'll get cancelled and whatnot. And that was happening for a minute. And still now, that shit can happen. But that's how it's like the whole risk of your social profile, your social, like basically being able to just be cancelled, makes everyone have to just comply with, even if they don't agree, just sit, pretending like they get, like they're cool with it. Because if they don't, they know that they're gonna get fired. Like you can't even get a job. There's people where they'll get cancelled. They can't get any job because nowadays you go for a job, they'll look you up online, and then when they look you up online, they're gonna see like, oh, this person got cancelled for X, Y, Z. They ain't gonna be looking to fuck with you, man. They're just gonna be like, nah, ain't even worth the hassle. So I read this, Isaiah 29:16. It says, surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as a potter's clay. Yeah, and that's what this is part of. This is part of that turning everything upside down. And that's really what we've got going on now in the midst of Esau society. He's been turning upside down. Even his role, he's the wicked, but he's transformed himself into that angel of light. And he's now basically got everything that's against the scriptures being promoted as something to, to strive for, something to applaud, something to reward. So now all the sets of like morals that everyone have, they're based on, wickedness that people are thinking they're doing good, which is the same with, with this, being a man basically saying he's a woman. That's completely against the scriptures. But obviously, as Esau, he's promoting it as something to to aspire towards. So it says, for shall the work saith him that made it, he made me not, or shall the thing framed saith him that framed it, he had no understanding. And that's essentially what he's trying to do. He's like, nah, we can flip everything on its head. There's people that they're caught up in Esau's bubble, so they're thinking like, oh, with the developments in technology, it'll get to the point where it's like in what the fuck's it called, man? Altered carbon, where you will either be able to, it has like the chips where it's like someone can get into any body and then they just transfer like the chip into it. And then, a guy can go to becoming a woman, a guy can go from becoming Japanese to white to black to whatever. All these things are going to be in flux. Or it'll be like a Lego set where, you can just have a uterus in there and then just pop it out like a Lego and then switch in a penis. But these things are obviously, these are things that Esau's not going to get into the realms of. But because people are thinking that's where it's going to go, they're just like, yeah, it'll get to the point where, you won't even be able to tell. But that, it's still completely off. But it's why? It's because now Esau's basically the god of this realm for them. It says what? Jeremiah 51:7. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of a wine, therefore the nations are mad. Yeah, everyone's drunk of the wine. Everyone's basically seen these things, and it's been a process. Because I remember like back 7-8 years ago, this was a fucking outlier thing. You were seeing a dude walking around talking in a dress, talking about as a woman. That would be something like this that's outlandish. But then now, especially in like schools with the younger generation, these things are just like super common. I think they did like a measurement where in the US now it said like 8% of 8 point something percent, like 9% of the population said they're LGBTQ, and then among kids it was like 20 to 25%. because they're all caught up in social media where the shit's trendy as fuck. So it's like, as the generations compound on one another, that confusion is multiplying. It says Babylon. It says the nations are drunken of a wine, therefore the nations are mad. So yeah, everyone's basically complying with it. Because I remember this is when what the fuck was his name? David Cameron was still in office. He basically said to Uganda, because Uganda, they'll put in homosexuals to death over there. And then he said, like, look, if you guys don't stop doing that, you're gonna stop getting like monetary aid. And obviously, pretty much all these countries are indebted to the IMF, so their financials are fucked without the aid. So a lot of these guys having to comply. Especially, it's like if there's business deals or whatnot with the Western world involved, for the money's sake, they'll have to comply. Last one I was gonna get. So Romans 1 and 24, it says, wherefore the Most High also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of the Most High into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause the Most High gave them up to vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the women, burned in lust one toward another, men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meat. So yeah, it's been just from back then, like in the time of the Romans. You can go into it, like they had the whole Institute of Pedestry, going back to the time of the Greeks as well. These things have been about in Esau's culture, and like Esau says, he always says civilization started with the Greeks. These are what Esau's civilization, that wickedness, all that confusion. Because I remember they said, like, I think it was like Nero used to dress up as a woman. These kinds of things were an aspect in the ancient world as well, with how Esau functions, and now it's just being brought back. But said what? And even as they did not like to retain the Most High in their knowledge, the Most High gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. Yeah, that's basically dealing with them things that are not convenient. Because as far as it's like, you see, like a good example is the guy, what's it, Leah Thomas, where they had like the women's swimming meet in like high school or college, and then the guy was just smoking a bunch of women, and you look at him and it's just like, bro, it's like this is just a dude, like what the fuck's going on? But therein lies a confusion, and it's every year on year you hear more and more shit going down. But hey, until this place is done, that's how it's gonna be. Remember what I was gonna get. Finish on this. Was it Matthew 24 and 22 says it's up in 21. It says, for there shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, not ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Yeah, so that's another another level, a layer essentially of that destruction. Because you have like I think in pretty much all nations, except for a lot of what they call the third world, the birth rates have been declining. Like I think over here in Europe, most places in Europe, especially in like Japan, South Korea, and China as well, it's been hitting levels where it's not going to be able to continue there. Like there's more old people than kids, because people ain't getting together having kids. Even if people are getting together, a lot of people don't want to have kids. So it's like, as these times go on, you're having, like I said, the lower generation, they said it's like 20 to 25% identify as LGBTQ. So you ain't even gonna have people getting together. So, people die out, man. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Yabba Shem and Shah.